Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I am fascinated by how other women make their days work. This week, Meredith Cooney, a marketer in financial services and the brains behind Money with Meredith, a personal finance business, joins me to discuss her days. Meredith and her fiance just bought a new house, and she shares how her days have changed now that she's moved to the suburbs, how she loves her daily walks with their dogs, and how her workout routines have changed since becoming a dog mom. Meredith also shares how she's a self-proclaimed snooze button queen. She's passionate about Dr. Bronner's and clean beauty. She shares her green juice obsession and how eating out is one of her favorite hobbies. This was such a fun conversation with Meredith, and I loved hearing about how she structures her days. Meredith is a wealth of knowledge on all things personal finance, and if you're interested, we are going to have a special mini episode on Thursday all about personal finance with Meredith. Meredith will share her wisdom on tax advantage funds, what to know if you're buying a house, and tips and tricks that she has learned along the way. Until then, you can learn more about Meredith and follow along at Money with Meredith, all one word, on Instagram or TikTok. And as always, thank you for making a day in her life a part of a day in your life. As we start this new year, I am so excited by what we have in store. I shared a mini episode last week about how I'm preparing for the new year, so check that out if you haven't yet. And if you haven't yet, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts so that you'll get new episodes delivered right to your phone. As always, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review wherever you're listening. This helps others find the podcast and it increases our listenership. If you want more A Day in Her Life, you can follow along on Instagram at A Day in Her Life Pod or subscribe to our newsletter, which you can find on our website, adayinherlife.com. Last week, I shared on the newsletter 122 books that I read in 2023 and some notes on them. Thank you for being a part of this community we're building. I am just so excited for what's to come this year. Since we don't have any sponsors on A Day in Her Life, as always, hit me up if you want to sponsor us, especially if you're a small business. We love to feature a charity that is near and dear to our guests' heart. This week, we are featuring St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. St. Jude is leading the way that the world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer and other life-threatening diseases. Aligned with the vision of the founder, Danny Thomas, no child is denied treatment based on race, religion, or the family's ability to pay. Marlo Thomas, Danny's daughter, recently was on the Today Show this holiday season, sharing the good that St. Jude is doing, and everyone in my kitchen teared up watching it. If you want to learn more or donate, you can go to stjude.org. All right, let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Meredith Cooney is joining me to discuss a day in her life. Hi, Meredith. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, Ellie. How are you?
I'm great. How's your day going?
It's good. It's really good. Monday after a long holiday weekend, so getting back into the groove.
Oh, yeah. The reentry is tough.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump right in. If you wouldn't mind, could you fill us in on who you are, where you live, and what your household looks like?
Sure. So I'm Meredith Cooney. I live in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I live with my fiance and his name is Thomas, and our two dogs, Maggie and Wilson, who are both 5 years old. And together, I always say we have 200 pounds of dog. So we're, what do you call it? A dink household, dual income, no kids, but the dogs kind of make up for it.
We've got 200 pounds of them, so they eat a lot.
Exactly.
So Meredith, can you also tell us what do you do for your career? What does your career currently look like?
Yeah, sure. So I work at a insurance company. So I'm in the financial services, and there I work in our marketing department, and I am on the commercial side of the house. So what I mean by that is insurance that someone were to buy if they had a company. And I work in our marketing technology group. So I'm out solving problems by sourcing different softwares and things like that to buy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Meredith, let's go through a day in your life. So thinking about your mornings, how does your day start and where does it go from there?
Yeah, for sure. So my day, I usually get up. I would like to say I get up around 7:30, but I am a snooze button queen. I'm ashamed of it, but I love the 7-minute snooze. To me, that feels like the best thing in the world when you get just a few more minutes. I've also listened to a lot of your other podcasts, which are phenomenal, by the way. And I'm ashamed to say, I feel like I'm like 3 hours later than all of your other guests. That I am not a morning person. So when I finally do get up, I usually put on some sort of leggings or a sweatpant combo and walk the dogs. So Thomas and I usually do that together in the morning. There's also definitely some mornings where he goes solo and I sleep in a little bit more, which is lovely. But when we do start the day together walking the dogs, it's a nice way to just kind of ease into the day, get some fresh air, ensure that I get some steps in before I get going. Like for me, once I start checking my phone or my email, it's harder sometimes to step away and get that fresh air. So make sure it happens first thing in the morning. So also helps like wake me up, because I really only have to talk to him or no one during that walk. So it's a nice like 25-minute segue. Then I get back home and I am so routine about usually like what I eat and drink in the morning. I love cold brew. The stronger, the better. I am a true Massachusetts girl. I drink it year round, regardless of how cold it gets. I am also religious about which one I go for. I buy Wandering Bears Extra Strong Black, and I order it from Thrive Market. I buy it in bulk. It is on sale this week for $6.61, so I really stocked up. So I always start my morning with probably too much of that. If I've had like a good productive weekend, I will have my fridge stocked with good produce, and I'm obsessed with Whole Foods, so I love making organic green juice. So I'll do celery, ginger. I like a lot of ginger. I like kind of spicy, and lemon, and sometimes a cucumber. And I'll have that like partway through my coffee. I kind of break on the coffee, have some of that. Similar to the walk in the morning, I'm like, okay, if it guarantees that I get some greens into the day, if things start to slip at lunch and beyond, like at least I've got some greens in the system. So it's a whole bunch of just packing in what I can before I have too much time to think about what else can happen. Then I brush my teeth before I walk the dogs. I left that part out. Brush my teeth before I walk the dogs. And then after I've had my like coffee and my green juice, then I will go ahead and do my morning skin routine. I have recently started only splashing my face with cold water. I really want to use a cleanser, but I feel like I'm reading everywhere that you're not supposed to cleanse in the morning and leave everything on, leave your stuff on from the night before. So I'm trying to do that. So just rinse off my face, and then I do a vitamin C serum from Mad Hippie, like Hippie. I love it. I've been using that for a couple years now in the morning. When it comes to like things that I put on my skin and hair and stuff, I really try to go the clean beauty route. And I find that Mad Hippie checks those boxes. I use the app Think Dirty, and you can type in, do you use that too?
I love that app.
It's so easy. Sometimes I use the EWG one, but I find Think Dirty.
Yeah, I like that one. And you can scan, like if you're in a CVS or something and you don't know like what's the cleanest product, because I've had that situation once I was traveling. I wanted to use like a shampoo on my kids, but I didn't want I'm specific about myself, but more regimented when it comes to them. And I was literally walking around the CVS, like scanning every product. Let me tell you, they didn't have a ton of options in rural South Carolina, but I know exactly what app you're talking about.
Yeah, it's when the items in there, it works so well. And it is so interesting. I find it to be so like vary so much CVS by CVS. Sometimes I'll go like, oh, this one's stocked with like some good brands that I know of at least. And then sometimes you go in and it's like, oh, this is all kind of not so great, but it'll do for now. So that one's like a green 0 on Think Dirty. Awesome. So like the best of the best. And I think it's made in Vermont too, so I guess relatively local. And I find it works really well, and the price point is great. It's under $30 for, I don't know how much, but like the regular size little vial with the tincture thing. So I do that, and then I do sunscreen on top of that year round. I do a Beauty Counter sunscreen. I like that one. It's like it's not oily. It kind of feels like you're just putting on a lotion. So I really like that. And then I put on this under eye. It's not really a serum. It's almost like a tinted moisturizer, but it's not really tinted. And it's from BioPel. That one I can't find on Think Dirty or anywhere. I don't think it's clean, but I'm already obsessed with it. So I almost don't want to know. So that goes under the eyes. And then I go off on the day. I don't really wear makeup during the week too much. I'm kind of a no makeup, during the week. And then if I have like social plans or I had a big presentation at work or something like that, I'll do tinted moisturizer and some mascara. But I find it's just better for my skin. And then when I get used to not wearing makeup, I'm like fine with it. And then when I put some on, I'm like, oh, now I'm like looking good. So off to the races with that. I also, the deodorant brand that I love right now is Clio and Coco. That's like a clean one. I've switched around a bit. I've had some that work and some that don't.
Same.
Yeah.
And I find that I also get like, I'm allergic to some, or like I get like itchy armpits with some, which is like the worst.
The worst. And it's like jelly too sometimes. So it's like you're itchy and it's like, it's gross. Yes. Do you have one that you like?
I'm
using liking right now?
Nude right now. It's NUUD. It's Dutch, I think, or I'm pretty sure it's Dutch. And it's like a tube and you use it every like third day.
Oh, nice.
I like it more than have liked any of the other ones I've used in a while.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been using recently.
That one. So once I'm good with my, I'd say pretty minimal skincare, I will then spend some time kind of checking my cell phone, my personal email, my personal Instagram, as well as my professional Instagram, the one that I'm working on building, and just kind of feel like I'm up to date with things on my personal life, as well as just do a little classic doom scrolling before I start my work day. I'm fortunate that I'm pretty much a 9 to 5 for work, so I kind of get going around 9 o'clock. I'm also in a hybrid. I was full-time not full-time in office pre-pandemic. And then of course was fully remote. And now we're in this hybrid structure where we go in about 2 days a week into Back Bay in Boston. So the days that I am working from home are nice. My morning is just a little bit more stretched out and elongated. So I usually have my coffee and finish my coffee and, check my personal cell phone for a bit. And then I log on at 9, still kind of in those same dog walk sweatpants and whatnot. Check my emails, start my meetings. I really like to try to not have meetings unless I really have to before like 10. I really like to bake in that hour for me to check my email, for me to tend to things before. Something that I find important is like to have control over my day instead of just letting what everyone else needs in like a workplace start dictating how my day starts to look. So even if I feel like my day is starting to look pretty full on the back end, sometimes I'll block out personal blocks on my work calendar just to make sure that I can show up prepared and present to everything that I'm showing up for. So depending on the day will be, meetings and emails, phone calls, IMs, things like that. So relatively like standard in the morning. And then if I work from home, I'll, definitely do like a household chore in between a meeting or something like that, do a little laundry. I do laundry like almost every day or every other day.
It definitely feels like it.
Always so do something like that or, put the dishes away or tidy up. With the 2 dogs, there's always something to vacuum or clean up. So something like that. I just find a nice break between calls, emails, things like that. Then as I get closer to lunchtime, depending on how busy my day is, like meeting wise, I will try to work out. I'm pretty consistent about working out I'd say almost every day. The weekends kind of, depends on what I'm doing or if we're around. I used to be someone that felt like it was so important to get an hour in at Barry's boot camp or, a really intense 45-minute soul cycle class. The last few years, I really started to shift. I think probably when I got my dog, which was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I spent more time walking, I felt like that paired really nicely with 25 minutes of Pilates or 12 minutes of, an arm weight exercise inside, or, maybe it's 20 minutes on the Peloton bike. But I found that I'm happier and in better shape when I work out more days, but for less time, because it's easier for me to stick to it, I think. So if my day is feeling crazy, I'm like, okay, I can squeeze in a 20-minute Pilates workout where I'm not going to sweat. I can put my clothes back on. I can pull my hair back and it'll be fine, but at least I got that in. So I try to do that in the middle of the day when I have kind of like a lunch break if I can. So sometimes like walk the dogs and do that and then eat in front of my computer or I'm not really a big lunch person. I eat all day long. Oh, I missed breakfast. How did I miss breakfast? I'm jumping. I'm breakfast. I love avocado toast and an egg, 2 whites and 1 yolk. I do Ezekiel bread.
I love Ezekiel bread.
So good. Do your kids like it?
They do.
Do they find it? They do.
They like they'll eat a lot of different things. Right now they're into bagels, like the One Mighty Mill little bagels.
Ooh, those are good.
Have you ever had the One Mighty Mill everything bread?
No, I haven't bought their bread. I've only done it there.
It's like a denser bread. Ezekiel, I like the Ezekiel more because it's got more goodies in it, but this is really good.
Nice. Similar to, well, that one's like a little bit denser, but do you ever do the Dave's Killer bread or the Dave's Killer bagels?
That's what I usually give for my kids is the Dave's bread.
And I like that too.
The Good Seed is my favorite.
Yes, I like that one. It's a little bit sweeter than the Ezekiel, which is nice and a little softer. So I usually do that in the morning for breakfast, and then I'll snack on something, kind of whatever we have. I really like Lara bars. Sometimes if we have grapefruits, I'll do that. Some sort of fruit or something like that. And then lunchtime-ish, I usually do a smoothie. So I'm obsessed with my Vitamix. I bought it like 4 or 5 years ago. It's my favorite thing in the kitchen. I could use it for everything. So I shove a bunch of baby spinach, blueberries, banana, coconut water, peanut butter, and yogurt. And I blend that up, and I'll have that as like, not really lunch, but just as like something. And that's usually something I'll have like after I work out. And then I will do like a little bit more work and check on emails, meetings, stuff like that. And then since I don't really like sit down for lunch, I'm hungry again at like 2-ish. So this is like the beauty and danger of working from home. This is when I like scurry on into the pantry and it really depends what I've bought that week. I love just shopping the sales at Whole Foods. I know everyone calls it whole paycheck, which is fair, but also their sales can be really good. When something goes on sale there, I find that it's like a really good price and then the extra 10% off. And so kind of whatever is on sale from like snacks is what I'll usually have kind of at that time. It's usually either like the Simple Mills, like knockoff Cheez-Its, or Good Crisp chips, or I've been into like cashews and dark chocolate lately. So I kind of like snack and just depending on what we have. If Thomas goes grocery shopping, so him and I grocery shop differently. So I am like, I go to Whole Foods and I buy things that are organic and grass fed and like funkier snacks. And then when he goes, he'll get like corn muffins and like things that I'm like Pop-Tarts, like things that are like so delicious and I can eat the whole box. So I don't buy them because I will, when I hit the snacky hour in the day, just go rogue on our pantry. So yeah, it depends who went grocery shopping is what the snacks, what this hour starts to look like. So I'll do that. And then I will usually, if I hadn't already called my mom in the morning, I'll call her around this time. Her and I FaceTime probably 2 or 3 times a day. And we talk about everything and nothing all the time. It's such a staple in my day. I don't know sometimes how we can be on the phone for so long and literally have talked about nothing. So if I didn't call her at some point in between my meetings at 10 in the morning, I'll call her in the afternoon and see what she has going on. Then it's just kind of same old business as usual. We'll chat. That's kind of a nice way to break up a work day a little bit too. Then a few more hours of work, meetings, things like that. And then as like the workday wraps up, the way that I really love to like close it out is by walking the dogs again. And it's also a really nice time that Thomas and I usually walk the dogs together unless one of us has something going on. So it's a great time that we're not, in the house or on our phones and actually just chatting about like what happened during the day. And that walk, like depending on, how far the dogs went earlier or how cold it is, like it's usually about 30 minutes, which is like a good chunk of time to be able to carve out of your day to actually just like chat. Or lately we've been working on bringing like a house that we recently bought back to life. So talking about logistics and plans and what we want and things like that. It's like probably one of my favorite times of the day. It separates the workday from the night. It allows you that time because then if, you're going off and doing something at night, or, you're making dinner and then, working on something on the side or taking another call or anything, like you've had that time kind of baked in, and the dogs have to go out. So it has to happen, which is nice. It becomes kind of a non-negotiable. And I find that we both really like that time of just like fresh air, movement, chatting, separating your day. So the dogs really help like start and stop the workday, which is nice.
When you go into the office, how do you commute via car? Do you drive in? Do you take the T, or how do you get in to work these days?
Yeah, really good question. So we recently just moved to Wellesley, which is about, I'd say like 25, 30 minutes outside of the city. And so I haven't commuted in yet from here. But when I do, I'm going to take the commuter rail, which I am looking forward to having kind of that structured time, because when we were living, prior to living here, we were living in South Boston, and I work in Back Bay. And so it's like 2.5 miles. And so flexibility is a wonderful thing, but I struggle a little bit with too much flexibility. And so if my first meeting wasn't until a certain time, I could check my email first at work, and then I would walk into work sometimes to get some additional steps in. So I would have my like cute work outfit on, and then I would put on my like dorky running shoes and like a backpack and walk in. And I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be that person, but that was me walking in like the least cute, the least sexiest version of myself. But it was, again, just like finding the time to break the day where you have just either a moment to yourself or quality time with someone else is so helpful. So I would walk in, or I would drive partway in, and I could park somewhere with my parking permit and then like walk over a bridge and get to work. So I could like drive 5 minutes and then walk the remaining 25, or I could walk like the full 45, depending on like what time I had to be in, what time. So I would do that. And so it also then make my outfit work with the walk based upon going in. So our office has become increasingly more like casual over time. So I can wear jeans and things like that into the office, which makes it easy. I mean, there's so much great denim with stretch in it these days. So I just like put on my like stretchiest pair and my sneakers and walk in. And so, yeah, I would get into the office between 9 and 10, depending upon what the day looks like. But if I'm doing that, then I would start checking my email at home around like 8 or something like that, just so I kind of still get that time in and aren't like technically late to work, if you will.
Yeah. I used to live right at the South Boston. I used to live right at the Broadway T stop when we lived in Southie. And so I would always, it was like, all right, is the train going to be anytime fast? Probably not, but it was way better than it is now. Is the bus looking reasonable? I don't really want to sit with people. And then I just walk.
Yep.
Like every time I just like, oh, fine, I'll just walk. And I would also do that like in the sneakers, like my like commuting outfit.
Yeah. Yep. And then sometimes you can like almost like beat the bus. Like if you're walking, always. Sometimes you will be like, that's the bus I would have been on. And I'm at the same exact stoplight, but I'm outside, fresh air.
Yeah.
And like, not surrounded by, bunch of people. Exactly. In the morning when like no one's happy going to work. So like you're on a plane going somewhere tropical.
So the commuter rail in for you guys, is that only about half an hour probably?
Yeah, it's about a half hour. Yeah. And it's close to our house, which is really nice. So we joke around that like, oh, we can walk there, but I know I'm going to be driving there like in on 2 wheels as the train is like taking off.
Yeah.
But theoretically I could walk there if I'm organized enough in the morning, but mornings aren't my thing. So I will be lucky to not be chasing down the first train that's going out of there. So I will take that in, which will be nice. And then when I get into the office, I love to chat with people that are around. So usually before I start my day, I'll bop around and kind of chat with who's in there. Especially now that we are going back into the office and not being in for a while, like I missed a lot of the people that I would see on the day-to-day. So it's nice to see people and maybe go and grab a coffee. And then when I'm in the office for lunch, I will go to Life Alive. They do like bowls of salads and rice and all that.
My office is right above Tate, so we often go to Life Alive.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, their food's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really delicious.
Yeah. And since I'm only going in like 1 or 2 days a week, I'm like, well, treat myself this one day and get it versus bring food in. So I think if I was going in anymore, I'd probably try to pack a lunch a little bit more, but it's kind of nice to socialize with people and go grab lunch. It's kind of an
go
excuse.
For a walk and get out of the office.
Yeah. So it's kind of that like social tax, if you will, which is worth it in my mind.
Absolutely.
And then getting home, and like previously I would do the same thing. I would walk home, or I would be like, oh, let me go outside and make my way home. And if a bus comes that looks good, I'll hop on it. And if not, I'll kind of keep walking. And then once I get walking, I usually call someone on the phone, and it's just a nice time to like make a phone call or put a podcast in, or just like be with your own thoughts for a little bit and walk on home. And then with my office being in a good location, sometimes before going home, I might run an errand or pop into a store. There's a lot of cute shops and things like that around there. So it's always an excuse to like, oh, let me just see what they have and things like that. So I'll do that too.
I do the same thing whenever I go into the office, which is like probably like once a month right now. On a normal day, your day's over, you've done your walk. What does your evening look like once the dogs have been walked?
Yeah, once the dogs have been walked, I kind of feel like, oh, okay, I've made it. Like the day, like all the, like most of the things that I've needed to be tending to have been done. If I didn't work out at lunch, I'll usually work out before we make dinner to get something in quickly. Once I like start making dinner, like I'm not going to have worked out that day. And some days I don't, and that's totally fine too. I feel much better about myself mentally on the days that I do. But recently, like for example, we've been super busy moving and stuff. Like it just hasn't been in the agenda lately. And so that is what it is. And I'll get back in the swing. So once, dogs have been walked, and if it's an evening workout, that's been done, then we'll make dinner. We usually trade off on making dinner. One person makes, the other person will kind of clean up. And no set schedule, no rhyme or reason. It's usually just whoever kind of went grocery shopping in that week and made the meal plan idea. Like if there's something that I've seen, like I love Half Baked Harvest. So if like there's a recipe from there that I've seen and I've gotten the ingredients, then I'll go ahead and make it. Really try to make stuff that can last us a few nights, even though it's just two of us. It's just so nice not to have to clean up from dinner every single night. It truly is like, I find to be just such a long process. Like I love to cook, but the cleanup part is like what I dread. So try to make something kind of in bulk. For two people, we go through like a ton of food, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir to people that have families and go grocery shopping with kids, but I feel like we get our groceries on Sunday, and like Tuesday evening, we've like gone through them all. So really try to make things that can kind of last us at least a dinner and a lunch. If not, it'd be great 2 dinners and maybe lunch for one of us while the other is kind of in the office or something like that. So something that we made recently that was really good and actually pretty easy. We made this like short rib recipe, like braised short ribs and some red wine. And it sounds complicated, but it was actually super easy. Kind of just use like one of the like Le Creuset type of, or like we say, bowls, and you sear the meat and then kind of let everything simmer in there. We got a few meals out of that, which was really good. So yeah, whatever is kind of feeling right and stuff that we've gotten, we'll cook up. I'm also not opposed to like cereal for dinner every once in a while. Not opposed to like breakfast for dinner every once in a while. Sometimes you're just like out of groceries and need to get through.
I'm a big breakfast for dinner fan.
It's so good, isn't it?
My husband is not, which I find a personal failure, but I love breakfast for dinner.
I love it too. And it really takes no time at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like whipping up some eggs. So easy. I love it too. I do find though that I get a little hungry a few hours after though. Like once I'm on the couch later at night, I'm kind of like, I need some snacks. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll do dinner and then clean up. We eat kind of late. I feel like my whole schedule is pretty late. Like I wake up later. By the time we like start making dinner, sometimes it can be closer to like 8 o'clock. Sometimes we'll eat like 9:30. And maybe that's why I don't like the cleaning up as much, because by the time we're cleaning up, it's like, it's late and we're over it. And then after that, Thomas and I will usually both sit on the couch. This is when I'll usually make some content and stuff for Money with Meredith, which is a personal finance business that I'm working on building. And so I find that laying on the couch with some like TV in the background and just knowing I'm kind of done for the day with everything else, my mind is a little bit more clear to think about what I would consider more like a passion project or a side gig, if you will. So I'll usually make the content that I'm going to share the following day that night. And then I'll save it in my drafts, and then I'll push it out the next day at the times that Instagram tells you things are good for. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it really matters, but I'm doing it. So I'll do that while we have the TV on. Huge fans of Bravo. Like, anything that Bravo pushes out, I'm watching. I love trash reality TV. Also, I've been watching The Golden Bachelor at night. That has been really good. But yeah, anything Housewives, Southern Charm, Winter House, all of those, like, I'm in for it. So yeah, I have that on in the background, or intently watch it if it's one of the like series that I'm even more into. Once I've made some content, then I'm usually just on my phone. I find that there's like always something to be looking, there's always something I need to buy, I need to fix, I need to think about, I need to write down. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's just always something to be researching or searching for or being served up that now I need. So I do spend more time than I'd like to admit scrolling on my phone at night, but it just feels so good. Like, I just love laying on the couch, watching Bravo TV and scrolling Instagram and TikTok, and it is what it is.
And then what time is your bedtime, and do you have a routine there?
Yeah. So I go to bed late. Sometimes Thomas will go to bed before I will, and I will stay on the couch for another hour. I'm usually like an 11:30 bedtime person. I'll put my pajamas on usually right after dinner. So after dinner and before said couch time, I will put my pajamas on. I love a pajama set. Matching pajama sets is something that I'm like all about, especially in the winter. So cute jammies and some slippers. And then before I'm ready to go to bed, I will wash my face and brush my teeth. And floss my teeth. I'm a big flosser, and brushing my teeth with an electric toothbrush. I switched over to that maybe 4 years ago, and I'll never go back. I love the electric toothbrush. I think I have the Panasonic one. So I'll spend a decent amount of time doing that. And then I wash my face at night. Well, usually after I do like the midday workout, that's when I'll take my like good shower. So I like shower midday, and then I'll put on like a kind of a different outfit for the afternoon that feels like kind of getting dressed. And then so at night, assuming I worked out midday and showered, then I'll wash my face. If not, then I'll have showered like after the evening, whenever the workout happens, when the shower happens. So if my face isn't washed from a recent shower, I'll wash my face. I don't use like a classic face wash. I use Dr. Bronner's Castille soap. I use that in the shower. I use a lavender one. I also use it to clean. I'm pretty obsessed with the Dr. Bronner's soap, actually. So I use that to wash my face. I started doing it. I ran out of a face wash a couple years ago when I was like showering. And so I just started using it. And you know, sometimes you run out of something and you just don't replace it for a bit. Pure, like, I don't know. You're lazy. You forget about it. You're ready for it to go on sale, like whatever the reason was. So it started washing my face with it. I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, it's just so like simple. It takes off. If I have like any mascara on, it takes it off. So I use that to wash my face. And then I've been using for a night cream, Biossance. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's another like clean beauty brand. It's definitely like a clean beauty brand. It's not like the cleanest, but it's clean. So I'll use that for a cream, for all over face cream, which I also try to do like my neck, my chest, my hands. Like, I've been lately really trying to incorporate my hands into anything I put on my face and trying to rub extra on my hands. I feel like, I mean, I think aging, I'm like pro aging. I don't think it's like, I think it's like we're lucky to be aging, and to, you know, every year is a gift. That being said, I also don't want my hands to age me more than my face.
Yep.
So I feel like you can see that sometimes with women, especially, that I'm like, okay, so I've been trying to put everything on my hands too. I have a like heavier eye cream as well. Same brand, the Biossance. I don't know if it does anything. Like, is eye cream any different than face cream? I think
have
we're
no
all
idea.
out here, right?
Yeah.
I think we're all out here buying it and it's a scam. But anyway, I do it because God
Why
forbid
not?
I don't know. Exactly. So I put on probably just the same exact cream in a more expensive, smaller bottle around my eyes at night. And that's pretty much it. Sometimes I have tretinoin, like a retinol from the dermatologist that I'll use every once in a while that I'm sure is like toxic as all get out. But sometimes I like to just get a good little fresh peel. So I'll do that maybe once a week or so. But yeah, I really try to keep it more on the simple side. I find that for me, it works well. I haven't torn. I've had more products and have used more products. But sometimes I wonder if like it is a lot of marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it doing anything? Like, has my skin actually looked any different? Like, my skin looks the best when I'm sleeping, when I'm working out, and when I'm drinking water. Like, like if I'm eating, like for me personally, a pizza and then have an 8-step skincare routine, like my skin's not going to look. I mean, I had pizza for lunch, but you know what I mean? Like, if I'm not treating myself decently. So I don't know. I'm more on like the simple and clean beauty is kind of where I'm at right now, but that could shift.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I've been trying to, when I go to bed, put my phone in another room and charge it. Since we've moved, it's been a little easier. We have an upstairs and a downstairs. Before we were in an apartment. And so I found that my phone was with me much more. So I'm really trying. So this is new. So when we say like a day in our life, this is like a day in my aspiring life that I like could keep up with this, but to keep my phone downstairs, I feel like it's probably not that great to sleep next to it all the time, and check it right when I wake up. And check it right when I go to bed. I'd say somewhat recently been in a funk where I was checking it way too much, and it's just addictive. Like, there's nothing particular that I was checking, but it was just the act of checking. So I try to just lay in bed and, for a little bit, we're doing like meditations at night, just on the Peloton app, and so helpful. Yeah, they were good. I wouldn't have necessarily thought Peloton app meditations would have been like really that great, but they were. I find myself falling asleep before it's over, and getting a little bit of a deeper sleep. So trying to do that and not look at the phone definitely doesn't always happen. I would be lying if I said that was my pure routine. That's my routine a few nights a week. And when I do that, I see the difference. So
that's awesome. I'll have to check those out.
Yeah.
Meredith, how do you stay organized? What do you use any virtual tools or physical tools? What do you use to stay organized? I know you've got a lot going on with work. You've got the house projects. You've got Money with Meredith.
Yeah, really good question. I am old school when it comes to staying organized. I have a planner with like a ring on it. It's paper, and I use different color markers for different things. I love stationery. I've always loved going to a stationery store or getting a new notebook or getting a new planner or anything like that. So I like my calendar to be very visual. So I have two going, one for personal. And so that's where I'll put, any type of social things or anything that aren't related to my 9 to 5. So anything related to Money with Meredith, anything with, especially right now, the holiday season, parties, appointments for contractors coming over, stuff like that. I like to write that down because it just helps me see it all. I'm very visual. I like to see my whole month and be like, okay, I have this, this, and this. It also helps me be like, whoa, okay, you have a lot going on. Like, do you want to pull this back? Or some months I'll look at it and be like, all right, there's not much going on. Should I try to ramp up here, here, or here, like in my life? So I like to see the whole month laid out. And I just really like writing things down. It helps me remember it too. I can visualize like later on it, like I can visualize my calendar. And then from like a work end, I keep everything in my Outlook calendar for work there. I always keep it up to date. So I have people put meetings on. something that I've started doing at work to help keep me organized is to ask people to schedule anything with me. So I find that it's really easy for people to reach out many different ways, right? They can email you, they can ping you, they can call you, maybe they're texting you depending on like your work dynamic. And I've started saying, sounds great, please email me that and schedule it on my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think before I started doing that, I was maybe felt like, oh, it was a little too strong. But what's wrong with being like a little too strong in that way to help? I'm going to help you by taking the call or the meeting or answering your question. Like you can help me by getting on my calendar and making sure it's not lost. Yeah. So really pushing people in that type of environment towards ways to like make it more effective. I started doing, and I found that to be helpful. So a little bit of a hybrid. The part that's tricky is if I have something on the personal calendar that I need to make sure is blocked on my work calendar, to make sure it exists in both places, because the personal, my old school pen and paper, like I can't sync them. Yeah. It doesn't, that functionality, copy paste. Yeah. Syncing doesn't work. So, I mean, a little bit of a downside, but, yeah, I think I'm paper forever.
I can appreciate that. What is your paper planner of choice? Do you have a specific brand?
Oh, I don't have a brand. I don't have a brand that I like. I will usually just go into the store and whatever is kind of like appealing to me, whatever like feels good, smells good, looks good, like very like tactile. Do you have one that you like?
I have always been a Moleskine fan, but
yes,
like 5 or 6 guests have recommended the Appointed planner. And so I have an Appointed planner that is coming my way this month. It was 30% off for Black Friday. And I was like, all right, I'm going for it.
Now's the time. And it's also a good time too for next year. Like I found the new year to be a good time to be like, okay, could I optimize my organization? Which I go through that process in my mind all the time. I'm like, okay, how do I organize myself better? Mm-hmm. And then I always revert back to like, I feel like similar for me and my skincare. It's like simple, like actually simple sometimes is optimized, as like silly as it sounds.
Nope. Makes sense to me. How do you make time for your relationship with your friends during the week?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I find, so in general, I find that making plans, I'm 33. All of my friends are in similar and different spots in life. I find that I have to schedule it so far in advance for myself, for anyone else to get on the calendar. So I will usually, sometimes on like the average day-to-day week, I'm not seeing friends specifically on a Wednesday after work. I'm usually more so will make sure I'm seeing groups of certain friends on the weekends, and I'll schedule that out. So for example, for the month of December, and this is where like my calendar view really helps me out. I'm seeing my college girlfriends for a Christmas dinner, my college girlfriends and all of our partners for a Christmas dinner that we planned a couple of weeks ago to get on the schedule. So everyone, all of us were available. I'm doing the same thing with my high school girlfriends, having them to our house for a Christmas gathering in December, and texted a couple of weeks ago to get that on the calendar. So for me, it's usually on the weekends, and usually I will text or call my girlfriends or vice versa a few weeks in advance. For example, one of my girlfriends is having a first birthday for her daughter next Saturday. So we're going to go to that. It's on the South Shore. And then we're seeing friends who also live on the South Shore right after that. So I find the time by making the plans in advance so that they have the option to happen, really. Because everyone's life is so busy and being pulled in so many different directions is great. And I also find that, I guess we're new to a town right now, but a lot of my girlfriends live in different parts of this for the ones that live in Mass. Some of my really good girlfriends live far away. And so that's usually like a FaceTime and things like that, or texting. Like my best girlfriend, we text pretty much every day. So feel really connected there. But I do have to say during the week, I'm pretty boring. I'm pretty regimented and I'm not very social. So I find that if I have something on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, even if it's something I'm so excited to do with someone that I love, it hangs over my head a little bit. I kind of like to be in my routine during the week and then save up my like social excitement for the weekends. It's just the way I kind of work best. And so I think knowing that and planning that way is helpful for me.
I love how you said that, and I love that awareness of yourself.
Yeah.
I can certainly relate to that. In terms of time with your partner, how do you and Thomas make time for yourselves outside of your walks that you have during the day? But what other things do you do to prioritize your relationship?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and one that I find is so important. We're right now in this phase that we're doing a lot together. We're actually at the point where we're spending so much time together. So our relationship in terms of quality time is definitely prioritized. We recently bought a new house as built in 1900, and we are renovating a lot of it. And we're not necessarily doing the work, but we are being the GCs on it. And so figuring all of that out, we're doing it together from both like a construction aspect as well as a design, because we both enjoy like interior design and bringing something back to life. So I found that for us, and maybe this will become a pattern in our relationship, but like almost having a project or like kind of a work stream together has really given us something to tackle and work on together. And so you're spending time, but then you also have something. I'm finding that now that we're actually in the house and starting to see what stuff is looking like, you have something that you've created together, which is a really cool aspect of a relationship, to kind of go through this building process, designing process, and then see it come together. So I'd say we're like inherently making time because of that for each other, which is really fun, really rewarding, but also really hard. Like deciding on all of a sudden it's like, do we like this polished nickel or brush nickel? And how long can we go back and forth on that, that one thing? So every little thing is something to decide on. So that's one way that we've been spending time together, which I think was almost like, it wasn't an intentional way of spending time together, but it has been, and it's been a cool project. But I'd say in more of like a traditional sense, I would say very much on the social end. We are both social extroverted people, him even more so than I. So, and yeah, you choke because you know him, and I'm sure anyone else who's listening who knows him, like there's no one has more friends, I think, in this world than my fiance does. So, and so dinners out is something that we like to do with each other. It's something that we like to do with friends. I love going out to dinner, like with one other couple. I find it such a great way to chat and be out. And it's something that I think as we, in our, next kind of series, as we talk about like personal finance and stuff, which is something I'm passionate about, is I think going out to eat is something for me that is like always so worth it, because it really is quality time and it's an experience. Mm-hmm. So going out to eat together or with friends is something that we probably do once a weekend, I would say. And it's also the phase of life that we're in, that it's something that's easy for us to do. We don't have kids right now. And so we can say, hey, we don't, it's Saturday, we don't want to cook and want to go out to dinner at 7. And so, I think maybe subconsciously or consciously, it's like, we can do it now. Why not when, the time is right? Because, that could look different for us in a couple of years. So, going out for dinner and drinks is truly one of my favorite hobbies.
I love that. And that's a great segue into what are your hobbies and how do you make time for them?
Yeah. I love this question. And I find this question it's good. And it's so hard because I find that there are certain things I'm like, is this a hobby? Is it not a hobby? I know earlier I talked a decent amount about like working out every day. And I do find that, going to a Pilates studio or going to a yoga studio, something like that, like I would definitely consider that a hobby. I think maybe 10 years ago, I would have considered it something I had to do, but kind of that mindset shift of being like, no, this is a hobby. This is something I enjoy. This is something I'm fortunate to be able to go and spend my time doing. So I consider that a hobby. This is actually in our household of point of debate, but I consider going out to eat a hobby. I think it's a hobby because you're trying out a new restaurant. It could be in a different neighborhood. You could be getting to experience a different culture via food. You get to, interact with anyone else who may be at that restaurant, with whoever else you're in. You're spending like your time and your resources to do something. So for me, it checks the box as a hobby, and it's up there for mine. Two others that I would say are hobbies of mine are interior design. So I mentioned kind of bringing this house back up to life. So managing projects and picking out, different fixtures, different wallpapers, way things could look, reimagining things. I say sometimes like I do wish I was an interior designer. So kind of picking that up more in the hobby space. And then my last hobby, which this one is probably going to sound the most dry, but personal finance is definitely a hobby of mine. I find it to be something that once you get the swing of it is really satisfying. And I've recently started sharing that hobby with others, which I'm finding to be even more rewarding. So yeah, those are my non-traditional hobbies.
I can't wait to dive in more to the personal finance one. And Meredith, what is something right now that you are deprioritizing in your day, or a ball you're letting drop that's something just not a priority for you? Or something that you're outsourcing because it's a ball you're dropping, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. Right now, I am deprioritizing cooking, working out, and sleeping well, which are probably three super critical things. And I'm not outsourcing any of them at the moment. The reason is because we've been moving, and we've been like in between apartments, and really focusing on keeping the ball up for work and for the house project, that I have been deprioritizing my schedule, which is also just like an ironic time to be talking about like a day in my life. I'm like, this is a day in my life, I promise you, but like 4 weeks ago, and it will be again in like 2 weeks. It's just, which I think sometimes that's how life works. It really is in phases, and similar to how we're saying, like, we're in a phase where we can go out to eat right now. And so we're all in on that. Like, I'm in a phase right now where just being on like what I would consider my A game isn't happening. And I look forward to getting like back into that groove. And honestly, it's probably going to be January, because now we are on the holiday season and life is short, and I love Christmas time, and I can't wait to go to all the things. So
yeah, no grooves will be gotten into until after the holidays.
Yeah. It's going to be a grooveless 2023 for the rest. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And then where can people learn more about you and follow along, Meredith?
Yeah, my favorite question, maybe. It is Money with Meredith. So I currently have an Instagram and a TikTok, and I'm going to be working on a website, but that is where they can find me. It is a personal finance page that has started to take a little bit of a turn, and I'm really starting to bring in some more of things that are happening in my life, such as the house or day-to-day things that I like shopping for, stuff like that. Really started with a pure personal finance focus. And the more I posted about it, the more I felt like it wasn't fully authentic to not share about things that I actually am spending on as well, and kind of that whole picture, because it can feel a little bit, I think, unattainable if you're only seeing what someone or how someone would recommend you save, invest, and not realize that I could do all this. But again, you maybe want to go out to eat too. And that's okay. That can all live together. So yeah, Money with Meredith.
Awesome. And then Meredith, what is your favorite part of a day in your life?
Oh, I love this question. I would probably say a favorite part of a day of my life is FaceTiming with my mom. I mentioned before, it's something that we do all the time. Her and I have been super close for a very long time. She has had cancer twice and has beat it 2 times, which I'm wildly fortunate for. And I think that's not lost on me every time that I get to call her and she gets to pick up.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode, Meredith. And I can't wait for your mini episode on personal finance.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellie.
Talk to you soon.